Golfers, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to talk about 3 tips and ideas that you can implement within your practice to try and improve the position of your right arm in the backswing and also how that translates into the downswing. There's 3 tips from the 5 fundamentals of golf, which is written by Hogan, probably one of the best golfers of all time. Think about both elbow pockets, so the front of both elbows need to point in direct correlation with, so your left elbow points towards your left hip, right elbow points towards your right hip, and the front of both elbows have to point towards the sky. Squeeze both elbows closer together at address. That's going to give us a little bit more symmetry. It's going to allow the elbows to keep the same spacing at address, and also how that corresponds into on the way back. Well, both elbows are pointed towards both hips. As I swing the club back, kind of takeaway, I still want to feel like my right elbow stays in front and my right hip. Right elbow stays quite close to my right hip. Where a lot of people get the swing out of sequence, the right elbow gets too much behind the right side of my body. So if you think about all the way down from underneath my armpit all the way down to my right hip, we don't want the right elbow to get too far behind that position. That's where a lot of people struggle, and that's where the club gets out of sync. Many people get the elbow moving back behind the wrist, so that position where the right elbow moves behind the right wrist, internally rotated position, which is going to cause the shaft to get steeper. So anytime the elbow goes back, the right hand's going to go forward and the elbow overtakes the hand, the shaft gets relatively steep. Use the give blood analogy, where you're just going to place your palm towards the sky, forearms pretty much square your palm, and then just twist your palm so it faces the golf club, and then just connect your right hand to the golf club. Start to feel from there as your right elbow is more connected to your right hip. That's going to create some symmetry, so working the club back, keeping that right elbow in close proximity to your right hip. Another feeling would be from here, once the shaft gets piloted together, everything works back together. If you're still struggling with that feeling of getting the right elbow closer to your left elbow stays a little bit more closer to the left side of your ribcage. So it's the feeling of keeping your left elbow on your chest a little bit longer. So left elbow on your chest a little bit longer as the right elbow works closer to the left elbow. So left elbow on the chest a little bit longer. That's going to create some symmetry. Left elbow points towards left hip at address. As you work the club back, left elbow then starts to connect itself with the left side of your ribcage and then your chest. Then as we get to the top of the backswing, the feeling from here, right elbow still points down towards your right hip. But the feeling, if you're somebody that gets the right elbow overtaking the right wrist, like we explained in the previous segment, where the right elbow goes first, then the wrist, right shoulder gets a little bit too much internally rotated. What one you feel like is your right wrist is going to start to almost feel like it overtakes your right elbow. So we swing the club back, right elbow points towards right hip. Then as we swing the club to the top of the backswing, the feeling from here is I'm getting right wrist to almost feel like it overtakes the right elbow. Instead of the right elbow going back, right wrist going forward. Really just start to establish the position of the right arm. So really elbows into both hips at address, swing the club back, right elbow pointing towards right hip. As we swing the club to the top, right elbow still points down towards your right hip, but the spacing in both elbows is going to start to increase in distance. But then as we work the club back, it's the feeling from here of the right wrist rotating a little bit more over the right elbow. That'll feel like the club gets in a little bit more flatter position. My right wrist overtakes my right elbow. That's a great feeling. That's going to get the club in a good position, and I feel like I've got a significant gap between right elbow and also the right side of my body, but the elbow still points down towards the right hip. Another great feeling that you could do on the way down, so established setup, takeaway, top of the backswing. Downswing feeling, one of the biggest related issues we do see, many people will get to the top of the backswing, what will start to happen, visualise that you've got a bottle of water in your right hand. People who steepen the golf club, elbow moving behind the right side of the ribcage, so anytime the right elbow goes back, the right hand's going to go forward, and we're going to spray all that water in front of us. So what we need to feel like we're doing from there, if you're this golfer, reverse that on its head. Don't get to the top of the backswing and throw the golf ball almost in correspondence with your right big toe. Your right elbow moves closer to left elbow, so you feel like you're trying to feed your right elbow closer to your left elbow. So as we get to the top, we create a significant gap. Try and visualize that you're getting your right elbow to move closer to your left elbow, so you're feeding that triangle. That position where I steepen the golf club, right palm goes further forward compared to my elbow, elbow falls back. Get to the top, elbow points down towards right hip. As I come down, feel like I'm getting my right elbow to move closer to my left elbow. That is a great feeling. So right elbow moves more closer to left elbow. If you're still struggling with that feeling, you start to feel a little bit tension in your right shoulder, and your right shoulder is going to move down a little bit more. So it's not moving out, it's moving down. It's because my right elbow is moving closer to my left elbow. And what you'll start to see from there, we create an impact position where the right wrist always stays behind the right elbow. That's a great feeling that's going to allow you to shallow this golf club. Swing the club back, right elbow is going to drift up the shaft of the golf club. If I get the right elbow too far behind the body, the club head disappears. So try and keep the club head in line with your right hip. Keep your right elbow connected to the shaft. So work the right elbow up the shaft of the golf club. From there, your right elbow still stays in front of your right hip. Then as we get to the top of the backswing, the right elbow still stays in close connection with the right hip. Try and get your right elbow as you come into impact, slide back down the golf club, and I feel like I'm trying to feed my right elbow closer to my left elbow. So right elbow closer to left elbow, and then help us shallow the golf ball on the way down. Grab the club head, place it down the back of your right elbow, all the way down the back of your right tricep. Bring the club back and steepen the shaft. Grip end of the club goes back, club head goes forward. So try and keep the grip end of the club ahead of the club head. How does that look? You get to the top of the backswing, feel like the grip end of the club always moves towards the golf ball. That is a great feeling. So grip end of the club drives towards the golf ball. And as you can see from there, that's just going to allow my right elbow to maintain a little bit of pressure. Head always stays behind my right shoulder. So as I see from there, it's going to enable us to create a little bit more external rotation in the right shoulder. That would be internal, where the palm goes forward, grip end of the club goes back. So really, we're trying to achieve from here. Don't spray the water out in front of you, spray the water more behind you. How does that look? Swing the club back, grip end of the club more towards the golf ball to target line, and my right shoulder is working down a little bit more. So right shoulder's working down a little bit more in transition. The right elbow moving in front of right hip, and that's going to enable us to get a little bit more tension on the golf club. So get to the top, right elbow moving ahead of right hip, and that's going to enable the shaft to shallow in the downswing. And it's also the feeling of right palm to the sky in the backswing. Then as we come down, right elbow moves in front of right hip. It's the feeling of spraying that water more behind your right shoulder. Achieve that right elbow move in front of right hip, and also using that analogy of skimming a stone, where the elbow always moves ahead of the wrist. But it's really important we get both elbows pointing towards both hips, like the late great Ben Hogan advocated. Right elbow still points down towards right hip. Try and feed your right elbow closer to left elbow, so I feel like my right elbow is moving more down in correspondence in front of my right hip. So right elbow moves in front of right hip. That's going to allow the shoulder to externally rotate, and it's going to prevent the shaft steepening. It's going to allow the shaft to shallow. Comment below your thoughts on this video and what's been your golfing highlight in 2023. If you're looking to improve your game in 2024, I've got a series of online and in-person lesson packages. For information regarding that, please feel free to get in touch. If not, like the video, subscribe to the channel, that would be much appreciated. Have a great Christmas and a great New Year, and we'll see you in 2024. All the best and have a great time.